Alright guys, I got some books over the weekend and I got a eBay package in. This past Saturday I had a friend of mine in town. He and his wife were just deciding to go to Winston-Salem. Invited me to go and we went down there to a flea market, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And there's a big flea market named Cook's, and then he took me to a comic book shop that was down there also. So I picked up a few things there and I also got an eBay package in. And I'm gonna go ahead and share the eBay package first. It's just 4 books. I got them for $1.99, but they're very cool, man. I'm really glad I got them because I've had the first 2 issues forever, and there was only four issues made. But they're from Whitman Comics in 1976, and they're in a very different format than comics. So almost kind of like a cardboard, a cardstock kind of cover. And they're science fiction tales adapted to comics by people like Isaac Asimov, Dean Koontz, Anne McCafferty, Robert Silverberg, and a lot more. And a lot of these are adapted by a guy named Arnold Drake, who wrote the adaptions. And Arnold Drake's the guy that created the Doom Patrol and the Guardians of the Galaxy, I think. And these are from '76. Now, from what I can tell, a few of these, they'll tell you these are original stories done for Starstream, and a lot of these have copyright dates that go back to 1934 for some of the stories, the 50s for some of the stories, and the early 70s. So basically, a lot of this is a collection of reprints from past Whitman books, okay, over the years. I think even some of them were when they were with Gold Key and stuff, and then a few of them were new. So these came into existence, as rumor goes. Take them out of the bag so you can see them better. That because Carmine Infantino, who was publisher of DC Comics in the '70s, flooded the market. Marvel in the early '70s started putting out more books because a lot of people don't know this, but DC kind of controlled some of the distribution of comics in the '60s. And in order for Marvel, which actually limited the number of books Marvel could put out. And that's why you had books like Tales of Astonish and Tales of Suspense that had 2 features in them. Okay? That was a way of Marvel getting around putting out less books by giving us twice the heroes in a book. And that's where some of these anthology series came from. In the '70s, contract went out, blah, 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 distribution, blah, blah, blah. And Marvel all of a sudden started putting out more books. Carmine Infantino wanted to take out some of the competition out there and didn't care if it was Marvel or not, so he flooded the market out with DC Comics, and that's where the DC implosion may have came from. In order to combat that and survive, Whitman Comics decided they needed to shake things up in their company and try to do a few new things, and that's part of where Starstream came up with its glossy, heavy paper look here on the comics. And actually, these are really good. It really surprised me with some of them because I read a few of the stories, and I'm like, ho hum, they're bland comics, and then bam, they bring it back in the end there because one was an Isaac Asimov story and stuff. And just to give you an idea, when you open them up, you get a table of contents, nice little poems and stuff, and then you get a few stories here. And here's one that's adapted by Arnold Drake. What I was telling you from tells you that where it was adapted from. Born of the Sun by Jack Williamson, first published in Astounding Stories, copyright 1934, and it's got a copyright renewed 1962. And I'm kind of wondering, was that first published in '62, or was just the copyright and they adapted it for this book? A few of them do say that it is a new presentation for new original for Starstream. So, different artists, different takes on it. Definitely has a nice sci-fi feel. A lot of this stuff has sort of a Al Williamson kind of feel to it. I'm trying to think who influenced Al Williamson, but I don't have it right now. We need to move on. So, really great stuff. Really good stuff. A lot of variety, a lot of old sci-fi feel. And this is a year before Star Wars came out. Okay, so this is actually some of the stuff that kind of gives you the feeling. It was influenced probably like Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers, and that's the stuff that adapted Star Wars. I keep mentioning Star Wars. So anyway, there's the first issue. Here's the second issue. These are in phenomenal shape. Great stuff. Some Larry Niven stories. Got, you know, if you're in sci-fi, you'll definitely recognize some of these names. I recognize some of the names, but I haven't read a lot of the work, if any at all. Like Theodore Sturgeon, I know that name. I just don't know from where. Great painted covers. And number 4, I've actually read a few in this one. Love that stuff. So that was kind of like a last grasp. I think Whitman was like losing. I think they lost some licensing and gained some. Like after this, they ended up being able to put out Buck Rogers, and I think they picked up Flash Gordon again. I mean, I don't know, the 70s and Whitman and Gold Key and all that stuff. Not a lot out there for you to do your research, and I don't trust Wikipedia. All right, so that was the eBay haul. This is the stuff I got at the flea markets and at the comic book shop that I couldn't pass up. Now, a lot of these were $1 a piece, and I really, I've been feeling so bad and stuff, I didn't really feel like haggling. So I got $1 off here, or I made a deal there and got just $1 here. I just can't help myself. So basically, we'll say these were, we'll just round it down, 90 cents a piece. I don't know, okay? After willing and dealing. So some of the stuff I got, I'm missing, after getting these books, I found out there's 18 books that tie into this, but in the 90s we had DC 1 Million, which was a mini-series by Grant Morrison. And what they did is that they decided, okay, if these comic books hit, like Action Comics #1 is probably where they started. If these comics actually hit issue 1 million, what year would it be? It was like the 853rd century. So they had the Justice League come back from the 853rd century as a plot, and then they came out with all the books that month. That was, to show what the 1 millionth issue looks like. And even inside the first page of these comics, it explains that these are anniversary issues, and they've reprinted them just like they were in the 20th century on actual paper and stuff, instead of being on the web net or whatever they had. So this is the Adventures of Resurrection Man in the 853rd century if he had a 1 million issue. Beautiful artwork by Jackson Geiss in this, Butch Geiss in this one, Jackson Geiss. If you're, it's kind of cool, And then we had the Legion issue 1 million. Apparently there was 2 or 3 of these books, and they kind of tie in together. I'm not sure if I like this. It was really out there. Keith Giffen's art, of course, was super sloppy, I thought. Supergirl by Peter David. She's floating around looking like Annie on a skateboard, so that's a strike right there for me, but it's a Peter David story, so it'll be fun. And then Young Heroes in Love. Never read a book by these guys, but they were pretty big in the 90s, I guess, for a little while. And then this was a gem. I'm actually going to show you a few things in this one. This is the DC 1 million 80-page giant. It's got a bunch of stories. One by Bart Miller, one by Grant Morrison, pinup work by Phil Jimenez. Just a lot. This was actually just fun. This was just a fun book, okay? Chuck Dixon wrote some stuff in here. Norm Brayfogle did some art. But what really caught my attention, was 2-page spread by Phil Jimenez, okay? Of the heroes of the 853rd century. Okay? Now, I want you to look right here, because I never heard of this character. But, if I can get her up here. Daggone it. I'm so sorry. Hang in there with me. Right there she is. Right there. The girl with the goggles. Right, okay? You see her? Alright, that is Owl Woman in the costume of Owl Man from The Watchmen. Apparently she's a hero in the future. And somewhere in here we have better pictures of her, which I will show you. And she's in action, and she's kicking some butt, which really surprised me. She's hanging out with the Justice League. Apparently she's a member. And here she is in action. So there's a kind of a Watchmen nod in there, which was really cool. Show her again. That is Owl Woman in the Night Owl suit from the Watchmen. And then they also had another villain in here that kind of cracked me up. I'm still not sure if I'm thinking she's cool or if I'm just that big of a Kirby nut. But her name is OWAC, One Woman Adversary Chamber. It's a female version of OMAC, but her name's OWAC. And then down here they have the Laughing Virus, and they think that he is the ghost of the original Joker from the 20th century. So I kind of got a kick out of those, and that's a Mark Miller story. And I think the one with the Owl Woman might be a Grant Morrison story. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, I think it is. So anyway, that's the DC 1 million 80-page giant, which I thought was kind of cool. And that cover actually resembles an 80-page giant Elseworlds tales that came out in the 90s. That came out in England, and they shredded them all before they could be released in America because there was a baby put in a microwave, which I think was Superman. And they just were like freaked out by it, so they just got rid of the book. So I kind of think that was a nod to that. I don't know, you know. Moving on. Alright. Thought this was very cool. I had to grab this. This is Marvel Zombies number 5, second print with an Arthur pseudonym cover of a zombie Silver Surfer holding his own head. And you can see, you know, he's just following the pieces there. Love that. Got some Invisibles. This is volume 2, I think. Art by Phil Jimenez again. These are from 97, Grant Morrison's tale. Number 4. Very disturbing covers. And number 3. Not in order, apparently. And this is the series that I don't know exactly how much is true or not. And it's from Grant Morrison, but Grant Morrison supposedly got really sick doing the Invisibles because he was tapping into magic that was making him sick. He also claimed to take a lot of acid and some other drugs, and he would write the stories of the Invisibles while he was under the influence of, I don't know, acid, who knows what else, and stuff like that. A lot of mystique around it, and the main character, oh man, King Mosh, I think that's his name? King Mob, the dude wearing the funky helmet there. He actually based his appearance on himself as Grant Morrison because Alan Moore, who done it? Alan Moore or somebody. Somebody else had made their character look like them, so Grant Morrison wanted to try it. Got this, more great Vertigo stuff. Saint of Killers, number 1 and 2. I think it was a 4-issue miniseries. So I got 2 copies of number 1 now. I wasn't going to pass it up in number 2. And Saint of Killers played a very important role in the Preacher series. And I got some Hellblazers for some good prices. Here is number 11. I think I got a 4th of the 300 issue series now. I have a 4th of them. If I keep finding them as cheap as I've been finding them, I'm going to keep going. You know, that cover does not translate well, but basically this looks like, yeah. Anyway, it's one of those Dave McKean looking covers. There we go. Very spooky. You got number 14, which was very cool. Very Hellblazer-like. Continuing on before I was rudely interrupted. Also got Hellblazer 107. Great cover there. Underneath a wrecking ball. Not going to do it. Issue 110. I really like these framed covers. Alright, Last Man Stand. A bunch of birds. Got 111 with a almost Tony Harris looking cover, man. That could be on Starman. I don't know who did it. Haven't time to look at it. It's got some cows in the background, which cracks me up. Could be interesting. Got number, oh my gosh, what is this? 238, moving up. Cigarette Burning with John Constantine in the cigarette. Now, if that doesn't say Hellblazer, I don't know what would. Then I found these, and they had a huge run, but I just picked a few select issues, and I'm sure they'll be there when I go back. Howard the Duck number 4. Some great John Buscema work, and Gene Colan work on this series. Number 7. With the Cookie Creature. Tell you what, man, when you were getting some Steve Gerber, man, you weren't getting a comic book, you were getting a mind trip. And then I picked up 22 and 23 here because, again, here we are with Star Wars all over again. It's got a Star Wars theme to it. And May the Farce be with you. And it's kind of like they got some Steve Gerber characters and stuff kind of playing the roles. I haven't read them, but the covers lead you to believe they're playing the roles of some of the members of Star Wars. And it really shows on this one. You know, cracks me up because we got a man thing on there, not giant size, just the man thing, kind of playing. Looks like he's playing the Wookiee, Howard's playing the Luke Skywalker. You see the Princess Leia and Han Solo kind of characters. Darth Vader in the background, and two robots, and some guy hanging out. Looks like a wizard, the wizard, which I cannot believe. I can't think of his name, playing Obi-Wan. So that's kind of cool to have. And I was really glad to find these. So glad to find these. I'm closing in on having all of these. Got me some 70s Kirby. Got 2001 number 2, which is just got some amazing artwork, and number 5 with a Comicsville cover there. Read it, Comicsville. So can't wait to see what that's about. But let me show you some art from this 2001, and we'll close it out here. Oh, I got 3 more things over here. But man, just this Kirby stuff in the 70s, man, he was knocking it out of the park. I love these 2-page covers he always did. Look at this. Just look at that. Oh. Oh. Just not going to say anything, just let you take it in. Oh, that's so wonderful. Man. And I love these 2001 books because they go from like caveman primitive stuff and, you know, superstitious cavemen, and all of a sudden the monolith would pop up, and that was a catalyst for a lot of things. And all of a sudden, man, he just throws you into like the far-flung future. Just the opposites, the dynamics of that primitive stuff, the heavy sci-fi, the future. You know, so versatile, so good. And then I've got these, but I'm want to just I keep buying them for what they have. It's one of my favorite series. It was James Robinson's debut in the comics, the Golden Age. You know, the story of more or less the Golden Age coming to a close. All those great characters, like the easiest way to find them is get you some All-Star Squadron, and this is what happens. This leads up until the Silver Age. There's number 1, number 3. Love this cover, and the story of Paul Kirk Manhunter that goes through this book is just amazing, amazing. And then number 4, which has probably the greatest choreographed fight in comics ever, one of the better battles. Paul Smith did the art. Paul Smith has a background in animation, storyboarding. I think he worked for Ralph Bakshi. I'm not sure. Can't remember exactly who the company was. So, you know, his background in animation and storyboarding and stuff for movement and action all just comes together in that book. Just some great stuff. All right, that's it. Catch y'all later.